All right, you beautiful bastards, welcome to the Deep Dive. Cheers to this fucking 18-plus episode where we're going to loosen those belts, grab some goddamn delicious cocktails, and get into some seriously wild shit. I'm talking fuck yeah, it's Friday night kind of vibe. I'm starting things off with a Bahama Pina Colada, because why the hell not? What are you sipping on tonight?
Keeping things classy with an amaretto sour. A little nod to the show we're about to dive into.
Right on. So tonight, folks, we're cracking open the world of ROX, a show so goddamn insane, so brilliantly chaotic, that calling it public access TV feels like an insult. It all started back in '92 with two dudes, Joe Nickel and Bart Everson, and their little cocktail mixing show, J&B on the ROX, but hold your fucking horses, because this thing mutated into something much bigger, reflecting their lives, their community, and even their legal battles. We're talking articles, interviews, even dusty old website archives. A treasure trove of ROX history just waiting to be explored.
What's fascinating here is that ROX offers a glimpse into this underground culture of the early 90s. The slacker movement, the DIY ethos, the whole fuck the system attitude, all playing out against the backdrop of a rapidly evolving media landscape.
Hell yeah. And these weren't just some armchair rebels, these dudes were living it. We're talking dumpster diving for food, working shit jobs, and thumbing their noses at the whole consumerist bullshit.
Yeah.
But they had this burning desire to create, to express themselves. Ever seen a TV show that's been called a nutty bohemian blast of irreverence, featured on MTV, and praised by Noam fucking Chomsky? Let's find out why, shall we?
All right, let's paint a picture. Bloomington, Indiana, 1993. Imagine a town teeming with artists, musicians, and anyone who just didn't fit the goddamn mold, Enter Joe and Bart. College degrees gathering dust, McJobs paying the bare minimum bills, and a shared passion for shaking things up.
These guys were the epitome of fuck the system, right? Living on the fringes, but with this spark of creativity that just wouldn't be contained. And it all ignited with a casual conversation and a shitload of, shall we say, liberated booze.
It's incredible how many groundbreaking ideas are born out of just shooting the shit with friends, fueled by a little liquid courage, right? Joe had a stockpile of liquor. Origin's questionable, but hey, who are we to judge? And they were tossing around ideas for a show. Suddenly, bam, a mixed drink cooking show. Like a goddamn epiphany.
Genius. Simple, repeatable. And you get shit-faced while filming. What's not to love? So June 1st, 1992, they grab a camera, descend into Joe's basement, and make history.
Their first episode was pure DIY magic. Think whiskey on the ROX, Long Island iced tea, and yes, even the classic amaretto sour, all mixed up with their hilarious banter about life, love, and being broke as hell.
They premiered that shit to a dozen friends, and J&B on the ROX was born. But this was just the goddamn embryo, folks. Here's where things get really interesting. This show evolved faster than a Pokemon on steroids. They went from cocktail recipes to incorporating friends, local events, and even their run-ins with the law.
They had this raw, reality-based approach that's fascinating. No scripts. Just capturing life as it unfolded, letting the editing shape the narrative later. It was a reflection of their lives, their community, and their whole fuck authority attitude.
Like that episode where Joe's mom gets her PhD. Sounds boring as hell, right? But they turned it into this hilarious segment about dumpster diving with their friend Christy.
Yeah.
The episode won an award, and Christy landed an internship at MTV. Talk about turning trash into treasure, right?
It highlights their ability to find the absurd and entertaining in everyday life, right? And then there was the Festival of Fools, a spontaneous parade they organized with their Have Fun Club. It was like a middle finger to conformity, a celebration of counterculture.
They were constantly pushing the envelope, challenging norms. That's what made ROX so damn captivating. It wasn't just about getting wasted and making cocktails. It was a snapshot of a generation that was questioning everything. But all that envelope pushing was bound to attract some unwanted attention. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Their first brush with censorship came early on. Episodes featuring, let's say, adult themes were deemed a bit too spicy for public access. We're talking nudity. And even a segment on, well, let's just say it involved consuming some unconventional things.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly. But instead of backing down, these badasses fought back. They ran a message encouraging viewers to call in with their opinions, sparking a whole debate about free speech and censorship.
And people responded. Their mailbox overflowed. They were featured in local newspapers. And even scholars started studying their case. This controversy actually forced the library that housed the public access station to clarify their policies, eventually designating it as a dedicated constitutional forum.
So basically, if the First Amendment protects it, it's fair game for public access TV. Score one for the ROX crew. But all this attention had a profound effect on the show, right? It wasn't just a local thing anymore.
Right. They realized they had tapped into something bigger. A community hungry for unfiltered, unconventional content. That's when they decided to change the name from J&D on the ROX to simply ROX, reflecting a broader focus on the community, and moving away from just the two hosts.
Makes sense. It wasn't just about them anymore. It was about the whole damn crew. The people who made ROX what it was. And this is where they made a truly groundbreaking move. A move that, in hindsight, was way ahead of its time. In 1995, they became the first TV show distributed online. Can you believe that?
A full decade before YouTube. These guys were pioneers, figuring out how to digitize footage, compress files, and transfer data using dike tapes. Remember those?
Vaguely. But the point is, they saw the potential of the internet before most people even knew what the hell it was. They were driven by this DIY spirit, fueled by, fuck it, let's try it, energy, and a whole lot of ingenuity.
And we can't forget the amazing cast of characters that made the show so unique.
Oh, man. This is where things get wild. We're talking Christy the dumpster diving queen, Terry Hornsby, a.k.a. T. Black, the self-proclaimed anarchist clown, and a revolving door of friends musicians, and random-ass people they met on the street.
It was a chaotic, unpredictable mix of personalities, and it was glorious.
All right, let's refill our glasses. I'm feeling a little ROX-inspired myself. And take a minute to appreciate what we've uncovered so far. 2 dudes, a basement, a shitload of booze, and a dream. That's how ROX was born. It morphed into a community-driven celebration of counterculture. And then, bam, they become pioneers of online video distribution. Not bad for a couple of slackers, right?
Not bad at all, but we've only scratched the surface. We haven't even touched on the deeper themes, their impact, their lasting legacy. Things are about to get even more interesting. All right, let's peel back the layers of ROX and get to the heart of what made this show so damn important. We're talking about those recurrent themes that gave it that sharp, subversive edge.
Yeah, man, let's get past the surface bullshit and see what these guys are really trying to say. With all their crazy antics, another sip of this pina colada, and we're diving in.
One of the most prominent themes, and this is something that still resonates today, was their critique of consumer culture. They were rejecting that whole work hard, buy shit, be happy narrative, as it was so pervasive in the 90s.
They were basically calling bullshit on the American dream, right? Like, hey, this whole system is rigged,
Yeah.
and we're not playing your game. And they weren't just talking about it, they were living it, man. Dumpster diving, rejecting material possessions, embracing experiences over stuff. They walked the walk.
Exactly. It was a very deliberate choice. A rejection of the mainstream values that they saw as shallow and ultimately unfulfilling, and they weren't afraid to show the gritty side of that lifestyle, the challenges and the struggles. That came with choosing a different path.
Remember that episode where they burned a teddy bear as a symbol of economic decline? That was some heavy shit, man.
It was a powerful image for sure. It spoke to their disillusionment with the economic realities of their generation, that feeling of being sold a lie, and then left to deal with the consequences. And they used humor and absurdity to convey that message, which made it even more impactful, wouldn't you say?
Totally. It's like they were saying, yeah, this shit is fucked up,
Okay.
but we're not going to let it crush our spirits. We're going to laugh in the face of it all.
And another theme that was really important to them, and something they were very vocal about, was marijuana legalization. They were way ahead of the curve on that one.
Oh, hell yeah. They were like the Cheech and Chong of public access TV. Remember that episode where they smoked a joint in front of the courthouse? Balls of steel, man.
They used the show as a platform to challenge the stigma around cannabis, to advocate for legalization, and to spark a conversation about drug policy reform. And they weren't afraid to put themselves out there, even if it meant facing legal repercussions.
That's what I loved about them, man. They were fearless. They knew they were pushing buttons. And they didn't give a damn. It was all about free speech, about using their platform to amplify voices that were often silenced.
And they saw public access TV as this democratic space,
Yeah.
where anyone could express themselves, no matter how unconventional or controversial their views might be. They were constantly testing the limits, pushing the boundaries of what was considered acceptable.
It's like they were saying, if you don't like it, tough shit. Change the channel.
Exactly. They weren't trying to please everyone. They were trying to start a conversation, to challenge the status quo, and to make people think. And they did it all with this incredible sense of humor, this ability to find the absurdity in everything.
All right, man, my brain's starting to feel a little fuzzy. Maybe it's the pina colada. Maybe it's the mind-blowing brilliance of ROX. But I need to ask, did this show actually make a difference? Like, did it change anything?
That's a great question. And it's hard to quantify the impact of something like ROX, especially in its early days. But there's no doubt that it influenced the landscape of public access TV, pushing boundaries and paving the way for more unconventional content.
It's like they were showing people that it was okay to be different, to challenge the norms, and to use media to express your own unique perspective. And they were doing it with humor, creativity, and a genuine sense of community. They were building a tribe of like-minded individuals who were hungry for something real, something authentic.
And their technical innovation was remarkable. They were one of the first shows to be distributed online, paving the way for the explosion of online video content that we see today.
They were pioneers, man, figuring out how to use technology to reach a global audience when most people were still trying to figure out how to dial up to the internet.
And they did it all with a shoestring budget, cobbled together equipment, and a lot of trial and error. It was a testament to their DIY spirit, their resourcefulness, and their willingness to experiment.
So they influenced public access TV. They were pioneers in online video distribution. They had scholars writing about their work. Pretty impressive for a show that started in a goddamn basement, right?
It is. And their work is still relevant today. As we grapple with issues of free speech censorship and the role of media in shaping our culture, they remind us that anyone can create something meaningful, something impactful, if they have the courage to challenge the norms, to push boundaries, and to stay true to their vision.
And hearing all this about ROX is making me feel some kind of... I'm inspired, man. What if we started our own show? Like a deep dive, but on TV? We could have guests, cocktails, maybe even some live music. It would be like a mind-blowing, boozy intellectual party.
I'm intrigued, though perhaps we should tread carefully, considering the numerous legal entanglements our predecessors faced.
Nah, fuck that. We'll keep it raw, uncensored, just like ROX. We'll call it Deep Dive After Dark. Or maybe Intoxicated Insights.
Inebriated investigations.
Hold on, I got one. Slurred sources. Imagine that. Plastered across the screen in big, bold letters.
Tipsy take?
All right, we're getting carried away here. But seriously, ROX proved that anyone can make TV right. And with today's technology, it's even easier.
Indeed. Perhaps this deep dive has sparked an idea in your mind as well. What kind of show would you create? What stories would you share with the world?
Damn, that's a good question to ponder, folks. But before you get lost in your own TV show fantasies, let's finish off these drinks and dive into the final chapter of the ROX saga. Things are about to get even wilder, so buckle up. All right, motherfuckers, let's get back to this roller coaster ride we call ROX. Where 1995, these dudes were riding high, pushing boundaries, and suddenly, bam, the internet explodes onto the scene.
And they jumped right into the goddamn digital revolution. They weren't content with just public access and the occasional MTV spotlight. ROX was going global, baby.
And they did it a full decade before YouTube even existed. Can you imagine the hustle? Digitizing footage, compressing files, dealing with dial-up connections? It must have been a technological nightmare.
They were transferring data using D-tapes, those big clunky things. It was a feat of DIY engineering and sheer willpower. They called their internet debut Global Village Idiots. Pretty fitting, wouldn't you say?
Hell yeah, it perfectly captured their irreverent spirit. They were taking their chaotic energy to the world. But there's this crazy twist of fate, right? A cosmic irony that I can't even make up.
The day they launched Global Village Idiots, April 18, 1995, was also the day of the Oklahoma City bombing.
Talk about a punch to the gut. Their big moment was completely overshadowed by national tragedy. And behind the scenes, things were starting to unravel too, right?
Absolutely. The financial strain was catching up to them. They were living on fumes. Their equipment was falling apart. And their relationships were strained. It was a pressure cooker, and it was about to blow.
Man, that's got to be a heavy burden to carry. You're trying to change the world, but you're barely keeping your own head above water. Did they keep going?
They finished their third season with an episode called The Harvest. A bittersweet title for sure. Then silence.
They just disappeared?
Not exactly. They went their separate ways, pursued other projects, tried to make a living. But ROX had made its mark. They received incredible press even after they stopped producing. Wired magazine called them the best TV show in America. Academics were studying their work, analyzing their impact on media and culture.
So even though they were off the air, their influence was still rippling outwards. Kind of like throwing a rock into a pond. The ripples keep spreading even after the rock has sunk.
Exactly. They were pioneers, sparking conversations, pushing boundaries, and inspiring a whole generation of DIY creators. It's like their legacy took on a life of its own.
Okay, but hold on. This is the end of the story, is it? There's got to be more, right?
You're right. After 8 years, they came back. Episode 87, a triumphant return. proving that the spirit of ROX was still alive and kicking.
Man, I love a good comeback story. Did they pick up right where they left off?
They continued to produce episodes sporadically, exploring new formats, embracing new technologies, and staying true to their unconventional vision.
So they kept evolving, kept pushing the envelope. Even after all that time. That's dedication, man.
And they even started a podcast, J&B's Nightcap. It's a fantastic listen if you can find the archives. It's like a boozy, philosophical deep dive into all sorts of random shit.
Wait, a deep dive? Are you saying they stole our idea? Damn, I feel another round of cocktails coming on.
Perhaps it's just a testament to the power of a good idea. But what's truly amazing is that they're still creating, still pushing boundaries, still inspiring us to think differently about media culture and life itself.
Man, this whole ROX journey has been a wild ride, hasn't it? It's a testament to DIY creativity, the importance of free speech, and the undeniable power of a goddamn good cocktail.
And it reminds us that even the most unconventional ideas can have a lasting impact. Who would have thought that two dudes making cocktails in a basement could change the face of television?
And who knows? Maybe we'll be the next ROX, right? Deep Dive After Dark, coming to a screen near you, raw, uncensored, and fueled by delicious cocktails. What do you say, are you in?
I believe I'm in, though perhaps a slightly less legally precarious approach might be wise. Then again, here's the fun in that.
Cheers to that. All right, folks, we're going to finish up these drinks and brainstorm some more show ideas. Who knows what brilliance we might unleash upon the world. In the meantime, keep the spirit of ROX alive, challenge the norms, create something amazing, and never be afraid to raise a middle finger to the status quo. Peace out, you beautiful bastards.